Throughout golf's history, the efforts and passion of a few great individuals have enhanced the game and established its traditions, securing its future, bringing the level of competition to new heights, and maintaining the class and pride that has always been synonymous with golf. Robert H. Hudson is one such individual who not only helped make golf what it is in the Pacific Northwest, but helped make golf what it is throughout the world. During World War II, Hudson came to the rescue of the PGA of America by offering to underwrite the 1944 Portland Open. Hudson went on to sponsor the 1945 Portland Open and the 1946 PGA Championship, leaving the door open for other players to continue the tradition of great tournament golf. 1 year later, Hudson made his greatest contribution yet to the world of golf. Due to the war, the Ryder Cup matches had been suspended, and the British team was financially unable to take part. Mr. Hudson stepped forward and helped breathe new life into the game by bringing the British team to Portland Golf Club and allowing the tradition of the Ryder Cup matches to continue. In 1949, PGA professionals Larry Lamberger and Al Zimmerman wanted to honor Hudson for his contributions to the game. Working with the Pacific Northwest Section PGA, they created a team match, pitting the top 10 club professionals against the 10 leading amateurs in the Northwest. Later that year, the first Hudson Cup matches were held at Portland Golf Club.
They consisted of 36-hole matches, a two-ball, or foursomes as they're properly called, and then the second day, 36-hole singles matches. But in 1966, they felt that it would be better to play 18-hole matches and have more matches. So they instituted 18-hole matches and added on the first day 5 four-ball matches, best ball matches. And so went from 15 points to 20.
Bob Hudson was a premier individual. He had so much that he did for the game and gave to the game. And it's nice to have an event that will continue to give back to his memory and allow people to realize that the game of golf has a lot of integrity and tradition, and it carries forth into the future, a lot of that. And these matches hopefully help people realize the importance of good sportsmanship and good competition.
But Bob and Bob Hudson Jr. and his family, they were very devoted to the matches. The section started the matches. And when Mr. Hudson found out that they were being held in his honor, he insisted on picking up the tab. So he paid for the Hudson Cup matches for many years, back through 1972. And then for various reasons, he couldn't do it any longer. And then the section took it over, and it's financed it since that time. I understand that today, in recent years, the Oregon Golf Association and the Pacific Northwest Golf Association both contribute financially to the matches.
Portland Golf Club professional Larry Lamberger Sr. and his wife Cecilia were at the heart of the Hudson Cup. Larry served as professional team captain for 30 years, during which time he influenced both the players and the sport of golf itself. The impact that he left on the game and the tradition that he contributed to the matches can still be felt today.
The beginning of the Hudson Cup was an idea between my dad and Al Zimmerman, who was a fine player and the pro at Alderwood, a course here in Portland at that time. And they wanted to do something for Mr. Hudson to honor him for what he'd given to golf. And it turns out Mr. Hudson got word of it. He supplied the trophy, he supplied jackets and other items for the tournament, like the Hudson Cup tie, for many years. And my dad and Mr. Hudson had a great relationship, and Mr. Hudson, I would say, trusted him to make sure that everything was handled properly.
The whole family was involved. Bob Jr. was wonderful, and later their son was involved. It was just a wonderful thing that the man did. He loved not only the game, he loved the amateurs, he loved the golf professionals. And we in turn certainly respected and loved Mr. Hudson.
Larry Lamberger Sr., who played on the first Hudson Cup in 1949, was the head pro at Portland Golf Club when I grew up and taught me how to play. And one of those head pros that worked hard, long hours and all that, and would just very quietly come up to you occasionally and say, if you want to be a good player, you have to do these things. And it had, a lot of the times, had nothing to do with your swing or the mechanics of the game, but your conduct. And he had a big influence on my life as a person and as a player.
One of the continuing cup matches was played here, I'm going to say, in the 60s. And Mr. Hudson even acknowledged me as an assistant pro, made sure that I received a Hudson Cup tie. In those years, every player got a tie that was the Hudson Cup design, and it was made by a company in England that Di Reese opened. Di Reese being one of the British players on the Ryder Cup team here. So Mr. Hudson seemed to always include everybody that was around in the tournament. A very considerate man.
The Hudson Cup, however, wasn't solely a celebration of Hudson and his contributions, but a celebration of great golf played by the Northwest's finest players. Over the years, professionals have been led by great players such as Bob McKendrick, Chuck Congdon, Bill Eggers, and Bill Tyndall. Amateur notables include Kent Myers, Dick Yost, Don Krieger, and Dick Price. The best players on each team are annually recognized in a vote of their peers and are awarded plaques named in honor of those instrumental in the development of the Hudson Cup matches.
Now, you know, he didn't argue much with Charles Congdon. If I ever knew anybody that was always right, it was him. Comfortably so. He says, what do you got? And I said, well, I've got a 7-iron, Charlie. He says, hit a 6. And I says, I can't swing soft, Charlie. I'm out of shape. Let me hit this 7. He says, no, I hit a 6. You can't get it there with a 7. Okay, so I hit a 6, and I hit an absolutely magnificent shot, only I got it on the rivet, and it went sideways. I think they call them a shank. I shanked, there wasn't a lake there in those days, and I shanked it over there to the right on bare ground, and Charlie didn't take losing comfortably, although he was always the gentleman.
He was one of the most respected golf professionals, certainly in the Northwest. He was not only a good player, but a good teacher, a good businessman. He had all the tickets that would be a perfect role model or example for any young man who wants to get in the golf business. If they came up through Charlie Congdon and were able to stick it out with him, they could move on to a better job. I'm sure of that.
And there wasn't a golf shot that Bill Eggers didn't think that he couldn't hit. I mean, he felt he could make the ball go down and then up and then left and then right and then up and then down and back to the right and back to the left again. And if Bill had a problem, he was trying to make the ball do too many things. But he was a fascinating guy and great storyteller and a great golfer, and we all miss him.
Steve Shadowitz and I played Ken Still and George Lanning, who were both on the tours at that time, and we both played about as good as we can, and we just got tomahawked by them and weren't even close the whole way around, and we both just shook our heads when we got done because they were definitely out of our league at that time in our lives. So it was fun, but it was fun.
There have been a lot of great matches of course, but I particularly remember a match between Al Mingert and Ed Porky Oliver. I don't know, maybe younger people would perhaps don't know who they were, but they were wonderful players right after the war. In fact, Porky Oliver was a regular tour player who happened to take a year off from the tour and worked at Inglewood Country Club. But at any rate, he played Ben Hogan in the PGA Championship final of Portland Golf Club in 1946. Hogan beat him 6-4. So after the matches, we were in the press room, and somebody asked Porky, said, Porky, what was the turning point in the match? And he says, when Hogan teed it up, he said. But he played Al Mingert in the 1950 Hudson Cup matches at Broadmoor, and they were even at the end of 18 holes. Mingert shot 29 on the back nine at Broadmoor, which was about a zillion under par, and beat Oliver 4-3. And Oliver, who was quite a jokester, kept saying to Mingert, Al, don't beat me like that. He says, it's bad for my image. when I go back on the tour, the boys won't let me play. But he could never get inside Mingert's head. Mingert was too good for that.
The most memorable one was when I was paired with Bob Duden. And Bob Duden and I were playing Brent Murray and Jeff Sanders, I believe. And got to the first hole at Sahalee, and we were playing a best ball match. And Bob was really a good friend of mine, and I feel very fortunate to have known Bob. And we're playing best ball, and the other two guys' drives were a little bit in trouble behind the trees, and we were both right in the middle of the fairway. And Bob walked over and picked up his ball. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm going to see if you're going to be any kind of a partner today." He just picked it up and left the hole up to me.
There have been a lot of great players that have played in the Hudson Cup matches over the years, and I've had the opportunity to play with a lot of them. And just looking at the pictures of the earlier Hudson Cup matches, to see all of the great players that have played in them, and frankly, to know that 30, 40, 50 years from now, somebody else is going to look at pictures and see that I played in some of the teams, and I was part of if you want to call it an elite group of Northwest professionals that played in the Hudson Cup matches. And it's just a very important thing to all the professionals in the Northwest. There are all those that play in tournaments. It's making the Hudson Cup team is a big deal.
Over the past 50 years, many great players have taken part in some memorable matches. But despite the competitive fire that sparks the matches, the event engenders much more in the way of friendship, camaraderie, and the pure joy of the game. These are the things most team members remember and cherish.
Overall, I'd have to say making the friends. I mean, you make some lasting friends out of it. You play out on a few years, and you get to play with some of the very top pros in the Pacific Northwest. I played with Don Bees and Rick Acton and Bob Duden, and just to name a few of them. Al Mengert, who was a touring professional, was on the team. And I've played against these people. And I don't know, there's something about competition in golf that breeds friendships. You compete hard out there, but you can laugh and joke and so forth and talk about past experiences. So I think friendship is the strongest thing that I have with it.
Well, it's taught me about character, tradition, class. It brings a meaning to golf that devoids money, which I think is wonderful in our day and age. We've got so much emphasis on that almighty dollar that we come and play. This is a friendly competition between the amateur and professional body. In theory, the best players in the Northwest. And I think that's very, very special.
You're used to kind of snarling and trying to beat up on your fellow golfer, but now you get to play with them as a team, and it's neat. I mean, it's a real bonding experience, and I think the guys that have played really share a bond that people that haven't participated in it really don't understand, I think.
I think over time the Hudson Cup just kind of speaks to the tradition of golf in the Northwest, basically. You know, to look back and realize that there's been, you know, great players in the Northwest from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, as well as today. I think the Hudson Cup kind of reminds you of that and lets you look back on it with pride to say, you know, the golf's been important in the Northwest. People have supported golf tremendously in the Northwest. And, you know, I just think it speaks to the tradition of the game here, which is an important part of the Northwest.
It was in the spirit of competition and camaraderie that the senior Hudson Cup matches were created in 1992. Many of the great players, so instrumental in building the history and tradition of the matches in an earlier era, now had a venue to test their skills and renew acquaintances.
The advent of the senior matches a few years ago really adds something to the game, I think similar to what the senior tour has added to the game, in that a lot of the people who participated in the past have found it increasingly difficult with the younger, stronger, better players joining our ranks to qualify for the regular team. So it gives us an opportunity to continue competing and to compete again with some of our old friends that we used to have opposite us who have the same problem qualifying for the amateur team. So it's really made it easier to maintain the friendships and the camaraderie and the competition, just doing it at a more friendly level.
The senior team is even more special because the people you're playing against are people you grew up with 30, 40, 50 years ago in some cases. And boy, I'll tell you, you cannot get old friends, and that's what we have here, old friends. And so the fun part of it and renewing those relationships happens once a year in October, and that's the best part. Not any individual shot or any individual score, but just seeing the people again and connecting with them again is the best part.
You know, the competition was certainly important and primary, but the camaraderie of it was truly enjoyable to me. It's something I'll never forget. It's some of my best memories. You know, I've played a lot of golf, and I've played Jack Nicklaus, and I've played Tom Watson, Ken Venturi, but I don't have the memories that as much fun as I did with the Hudson Cup matches.
The pride that surrounds the matches has been the driving force for many players over the years. Qualifying as a member of the Hudson Cup team is the highlight of every golfer's season. It is the culmination of a great year and the definition of a great player. It has become the mark that each and every player in the Northwest strives for and holds as one of their greatest experiences.
I was playing the last round of the Northwest Open, and I figured I needed about 5 or 6 points, which meant I just had to finish in the top 20. And I went out in the last round and I tore it up, and I was 4 under after 6 holes. And I'm not even thinking about the tournament. I'm thinking, oh, I gotta get on that Hudson Cup team. And so I started choking and puking it around, and I ended up finishing 1 under for the round. And then you're studying the board at the end going, did I make it, did I make it? And seeing who's ahead of you and who's behind you. Did they get more points than me this week? And so I made it right on the button. I was number 10 last year.
And so it was always an honor just to be invited, because it is the culmination of I mean, if you played well to an amateur, and I know to a professional too, it was a culmination of at least in your own mind as well as in the mind of your peers, that you had a good year, that you played well all year. And it was an honor. It was probably, at least I consider it, the highest honor as an amateur golfer in the Northwest to achieve.
It's just a mark of achievement. It's kind of something I know that it's kind of important. It is important to all of the professionals in the Northwest. It shows kind of an accomplishment for your year and how you've played during that year. So it's really still a very special situation.
I think that's one of the things that's nice about this tournament too, is the fact that there's a great deal of camaraderie between the professionals and the amateurs. And when they're out there playing each other, they're trying as hard as they can to beat each other. But when it's all over, they're good friends. And I think that's, you know, that's really, that's what Robert Hudson wanted, and that's what he got. And today it's the same way.
I think all of us are certainly indebted to him for what he started, because it really is, it's a true golf competition. No prize money, no expenses, no nothing. It's just truly for the pride and joy of the game and recognition of good play. And in these times now, it's not like that anymore. You know, it's just a pure celebration of golf, and I think that's what I would thank him for. It's neat to see that, because it's not very often we have things like that anymore. Just, you know, it's just a tribute to golf.
While Robert Hudson's contributions of nearly a half-century ago have long since left the headlines, his generosity and passion have left an indelible impact on golf in the Pacific Northwest for the past 50 years. The pride and tradition that surround the tournament that holds his name is why the Hudson Cup matches are truly a celebration of golf.